I'm Haley Williams of the Buffalo Buttes, and you're listening to the Xperience Hockey Talk.
And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Xperience Hockey Talk, Serious Hockey Talk for serious hockey fans. My name is Michael Lindenbaum. He is Dickson Kendrick, who you'll hear from in a little bit. And we are brought to you by the Tillickill in Frederick, Maryland. The Tillickill Pub and Eatery, located at 5605 Spectrum Drive in Frederick, Maryland. Come to the Celtic-themed sports pub featuring the world-famous Tillickill girls. For more on Tillickill Frederick, visit them on Facebook today. And today is May 2nd. Dickson and I have survived the day of work. We're getting ready to watch Caps versus Pens Game 3, which is later tonight. How you surviving over there, Dickson?
Driving pretty well.
Good, good. And with that, shut up until it's time for your turn. Oh, I don't get a laugh? Har. Okay, you suck. Oh, there it is. And with that, we go to April 28th. The Pittsburgh Penguins versus the Washington Capitals, Game 1. The lineup for the Capitals was Alex Ovechkin, Nicholas Backstrom, and TJ Oshie, Marcus Johansson, Evgeny Kuznetsov, and Justin Williams, Jason Chimera with Mike Richards and Andrei Burakovsky, Daniel Winnick with Jay Beagle, and Tom Wilson. And on the defensive pairings, you had Karl Alzner, with Matt Niskanen, Brooks Orpik with John Carlson, Dmitry Orlov with Nate Schmidt, and Braden Holtby and the net. And then going into the first period, Matt Cullen would be called for tripping at 6:15. Then at 10:13, Andrei Burakovsky would get his first of the playoffs from Jason Chimera and John Carlson, their first and fourth assists of the playoffs, respectively. Then at 14:54, Andrei Burakovsky would be called for boarding. At the end of the first period, the Capitals would be up 1-0. Shots were 15-9 in favor of the Caps. Faceoffs were 15-13 in favor of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Hits were 17-7 in favor of the Caps, and the power play was 0-for-1 for both teams. It was a slow start for the Caps, but an overall good period for them. The Caps were able to get a good goal to give them the lead. The Caps have to remain disciplined and continue to play their game and stick to the script. Then going into the second period, Chris Letang would be called for interference at 5:15. Then at 10:40, Ben Lovejoy would get his first goal of the playoffs from Nick Bonino and Carl Hagelin. Then at 11:37, Evgeny Malkin would score his third of the playoffs from Chris Kunitz and Chris Letang. But then at 12:10, TJ Oshie would tie it up with his second of the playoffs, which was unassisted. Then Tom Wilson would be called for cross-checking at the 13-minute mark, and Evgeny Malkin would be called for embellishment also at the 13-minute mark. At the end of the second period, it'd be tied 2 apiece. Shots were 26-22 in favor of Pittsburgh. Faceoffs were 30-22 in favor of Pittsburgh. Hits were 29-21 in favor of the Caps, and power play was 0-for-1 and 0-for-2, respectively, for the Pens and Caps. The Caps weathered the storm the Penguins brought and were able to go into the second intermission with a 2-2 tie. Not the ideal period, but the Caps are playing disciplined and are doing good at exploiting the Penguins' defense with their stretch passes. The Caps need to pick up the play in the offensive zone and continue to play disciplined. And then going into the third period, TJ Oshie would score his third of the playoffs at 3:23, assisted by Alex Ovechkin, his third assist of the playoffs. Then Evgeny Kuznetsov would be called for hooking at 5:33, followed by Phil Kessel being called for tripping at 5:47. Then at 8:42, Nick Bonino would tie up the score at 3 with his first of the playoffs from Carl Hagelin and Phil Kessel. And then Ben Lovejoy would be called for tripping at 10:53. At the end of the third period, the Penguins and Caps would be tied at 3 apiece. Shots were 39-27 in favor of Pittsburgh. Faceoffs were 40-31 in favor of Pittsburgh. Hits were 39-27 in favor of the Caps. And on the power play, Pittsburgh was 0 for 2, where the Caps were 0 for 4. This was an okay third period for the Caps. It was really good getting the early goal, but a failed defensive play by Backstrom costed them. The Caps need to remain disciplined, and it wouldn't surprise me if, along with Dmitry Orlov, Tom Wilson doesn't see much ice time in overtime. The Caps need to play smart in overtime if they expect to win this game. And then going into the first overtime period, TJ Oshie would complete the hat trick and get his 4th goal of the playoffs, which would go unassisted at 9:33 to win the game for the Capitals 4-3, with the shots being Pittsburgh 45 to the Caps 35. Faceoffs were 46-39 in favor of Pittsburgh. Hits were 43-29 in favor of the Caps, and the Penguins were 0 for 2 and the Caps were 0 for 4 on the power play. Overall, good effort in that overtime period. I was surprised to see Tom Wilson out, especially after the kneeing incident with Sheary. But overall, great overtime period. The Caps played with great urgency. They pressed the play on the Penguins, and as a result, TJ Oshie would complete the hat trick and win the game for the Washington Capitals in the first overtime. And in looking at news and notes for April 28th, the Detroit Red Wings' new home will be named Little Caesars Arena. The 20,000-seat building is scheduled to open in 2017-18. The Red Wings have played in Joe Louis Arena since 1979. The announcement was made by Olympia Entertainment and Little Caesars. Little Caesars was founded by Red Wings owners Mike and Marian Ilitch. Boston Bruins center Patrice Bergeron would look to win the Selke Trophy for the 3rd straight season and 4th time in his career. Along with Bergeron, centers Ryan Kessler and of the Anaheim Ducks and Anze Kopitar, the Los Angeles Kings were named finalists. The trophy is awarded to the forward who best excels in the defensive aspects of the game. Bergeron led the league with 1,978 faceoffs taken and won 57.1%. The 5th straight season he won at least 57%. He also won 389 defensive zone faceoffs, which led the Eastern Conference. Bergeron averaged 1950 of ice time per game, had 32 goals and 36 assists in 80 games, and was a plus 12. It's the 5th straight season Bergeron is a Selke finalist. He won the award in 2012, 2014, and 2015, and could become the second 4-time winner. Kessler is a finalist for the 4th time and 1st since 2011. He finished 2nd in the faceoff win percentage with 58.5, including at least a 50% success rate in 58 of 79 games. Kessler ranked 1st in the league in defensive zone faceoffs, 441, and shorthanded wins with 168. He averaged .245 of shorthanded ice time per game and was a big reason the Ducks led the league with an 87.2% success rate on the penalty kill. Kessler had 21 goals, 32 assists, and a +5 rating in 79 games. He also tied the league lead in blocks among forwards with 92. And then Kopitar, a Selke finalist for the 3rd straight season, was the runner-up in each of the past 2 seasons. He led all forwards in total ice time, 1,690 minutes and 12 seconds, and averaged .2052 a game. Including 209 shorthanded, Kopitar was 5th in faceoffs taken with 1,776, and 7th in faceoff wins 950, and won 53.5%. Kopitar was 3rd in the league among forwards in shot attempts differential. The Kings had 332 more shot attempts than they allowed when he was on the ice. He also ranked 2nd in the league in plus-minus, +34, and had 25 goals and 49 assists in 81 games. And with that, we're now going to go to April 29th, when you had the Dallas Stars versus the St. Louis Blues for Game 1. Dickson, take it away.
Okay, you have Game 1 of the Western Conference second-round series between the Dallas Stars and the St. Louis Blues. Your Dallas Blues line, Jaden Schwartz, Yordi Latera, Vladimir Tarasenko, Robbie Fabry, Paul Stastny, Troy Brouwer, Patrick Berglund, Alexander Steen, David Backes, Steve Bott, Kyle Brodziak, Scotty Upshaw. Your defensive pairings are Jay Bouwmeester, Alex Pietrangelo, Joel Edmondson, Kevin Shattenkirk, Carl Gunnarsson, Colton Parayko, and Brian Elliott in net. The first St. Louis penalty comes at the 57-second mark by Brian Elliott for delay of game served by Robbie Fabry. Dallas penalty at 1:57, Jamie Benn for cross-checking, and a St. Louis penalty at 17:38, Scotty Upshaw for slashing. First shots go 14-7 for Dallas. Face-offs go 12-7 in favor of St. Louis. Hits go 16-11 in favor of Dallas. And power plays are 0 for 1 by St. Louis and 0 for 2 by Dallas. Second period, you have a penalty by St. Louis at 3:43, Cody Eakin for hooking. I think that should be Dallas, not St. Louis. Dallas goal 9:36, Antoine Rosal for a Dallas goal by Radek Faxa. Don't know if I was that pronounced correctly. And also assisted by John Klingberg. St. Louis penalty at 11:02 by Alexander Steen for cross-checking. Shots go 31-17 in favor of Dallas. Face-offs 21-13 in favor of St. Louis. Hits go 22-16 in favor of Dallas. St. Louis is 0 for 2 on the power play thus far, and Dallas is 0 for 3. Third period, you have matching penalties by Dallas and St. Louis at the 2:45 mark. Dallas is Travis Bowen for roughing, and Seabot from St. Louis for roughing as well. St. Louis goal at the 11:32 mark. Goal by Kevin Shattenkirk from Colton Perico and Patrick Berglund. Dallas goal at 15-16. Radek Faxa, assisted by Alice Hemsky and Alex Olsecki. I don't know if I said that correctly as well. Shots go 42-32 in favor of Dallas at the end of the third. Faceoffs go 32-23 in favor of St. Louis. Hits go 32-26 in favor of Dallas. St. Louis goes 0 for 2 on the power play, and Dallas goes 0 for 3. Your news and notes from April 29th. Bruce Boudreau was fired as coach of the Anaheim Ducks 2 days after losing a fourth straight Stanley Cup Playoff Game 7 at home. Under Boudreau, the Ducks won the Pacific Division 4 times but were eliminated in a Game 7 each season, including 2-1 by the Nashville Predators in the Western Conference first round on Wednesday. Boudreau, 61, was hired by the Ducks to replace Randy Carlyle on November 30th, 2011, 2 days after being fired by the Washington Capitals. Boudreau had similar regular season success in Washington, coaching the Capitals to a 201, 88, and 40 record and 4 straight division titles, but they never reached the Eastern Conference Final and advanced once in 4 postseason appearances. Boudreau was 1-7 in Game 7 in the NHL. Boudreau was 208, 104, and 40 with Anaheim for an NHL record of 409, 192, and 80. Washington Capitals forward Tom Wilson has been fined $2,403.67, the maximum allowable under the collective bargaining agreement, for named Pittsburgh Penguins forward Connor Sheary in Game 1 of the team's second-round series in Washington on Thursday, April 28th, the National Hockey League's Department of Player Safety announced today. The incident occurred at 4:01 of the third period. Ottawa Senators defenseman Erik Karlsson can win the James Norris Memorial Trophy for a second straight season and third time in his NHL career. Karlsson, Brent Burns of the San Jose Sharks, and Troy Dowdy of the LA Kings were named finalists. The trophy is awarded to the defenseman who demonstrates throughout the season the greatest all-around ability at the position. Karlsson established a Senators single-season record for assists, 66, and points, 82, by a defenseman, leading the NHL in assists and ranking first among defensemen in points for a third straight season and fourth time in the past 5 seasons. He drove the puck possession with a 51.47 Corsi forward percentage in 5-on-5 situation. His Corsi relative percentage of 7.2 was fourth best among the NHL defensemen and meant the Senators attempted 7% more shots with Karlsson on the ice compared to his teammates. Karlsson is the first NHL defenseman to score at least 82 in a season since Brian Leetch of the New York Rangers, 85 points, and Ray Borg of the Boston Bruins, 82 points in 1995-96. Karlsson played all 82 regular season games for a third straight season and led the NHL in ice time, 2,375 minutes and 55 seconds, even strength time, 1,885 minutes and 26 seconds, and average ice time, 28 minutes and 58 seconds, all NHL career highs. Burns, the first-time Norris finalist, set Sharks records for defensemen in goals 27, assists 48, and points 75. He also established a Sharks record with 353 shots on goal. Burns played in all 82 games for a second straight season and led San Jose with an NHL career-high 25 minutes and 51 seconds in ice time. The Sharks took 181 more shots than they allowed with Burns on the ice at 5-on-5. Doughty, who drove puck possession with a league-leading 58.89 Corsi for percentage in 5-on-5 situations, ranked third in the league in average ice time, 20 minutes and 1 second, to help lead the Kings to a third consecutive top 5 finish in team defense with a 2.34 goals against average. His 41 goals and 51 points were his most since the 2009-10 season, 16 goals and 59 points. And his plus 24 rating was an NHL career high. The Kings took 537 more shots than they allowed with Doughty on the ice at 5-on-5. A three-time finalist, was third in voting in 2009-10 and second in 2014-15. After going a week without a game, the San Jose Sharks knew it would take some time to shake off the rest against the Nashville Predators in Game 1 of their Western Conference second-round series at SAP Center on Friday. It turned out San Jose needed until the third period to get back on track and up to full Stanley Cup playoff speed. The Sharks scored 5 times in the third to come from behind to defeat the Predators 5-2. Logan Couture had 2 goals. Tomas Hertl, Joe Ward, and Tommy Wingles each scored 1, and Martin Jones had made 29 saves. Game 2 is in San Jose on Sunday.
And with that, we are going to go to break. When we come back, we'll be going over the 2 Game 2s of the Caps and Pens in St. Louis and Dallas, plus more NHL news and notes. Looking for hockey cards to build your collection, or that specific card you would like to have to get signed by your favorite player? Then I recommend Just Hockey Cards out in Silver Spring, Maryland. Donald takes good care of me when I'm looking to build my collection, and he'll help you too. For inquiries, reach out to Donald at blake4av@aol.com. That's blake4av@aol.com. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Xperience Hockey Talk, serious hockey talk for serious hockey fans. And it is I, Michael, back along with Dickson. And we are also brought to you by AwesomeCon. AwesomeCon, which is June 3rd through 5th, 2016 at the Walter E. Washington Convention Center in Washington, D.C. Come see special guests like Star Talk Live featuring Bill Nye the Science Guy, an evening of Kevin Smith with Kevin Smith, John Barrowman, Peter Capaldi, Marina Baccarin, Robin Lord Taylor, Riddle, and many others. For more information, please visit awesome-con.com. And we go to 4:30-16, the Pittsburgh Penguins versus Washington Capitals Game 2. You had Alex Ovechkin with Nicholas Backstrom and TJ Oshie, Marcus Johansson, Evgeny Kuznetsov, and Justin Williams, Jason Chimera with Mike Richards and Andre Burakovsky, Daniel Winnick with Jay Beagle, and Tom Wilson. On defense, you have Brooks Orpik with John Carlson, Carl Alsner with Matt Niskanen, Nate Schmidt with Taylor Chorney, and Braden Holtby in net. And in the first period, Brooks Orpik would be called for interference at 4:13. Then Ben Lovejoy would be called for slashing at 16:29. At the end of the first period, the Caps and Pens would be tied at 0 apiece. Shots were 14-5 in favor of Pittsburgh. Faceoffs were 14-6 in favor of the Capitals. Hits were 13-11 in favor of the Caps, and both teams were 0-1. It was an okay period for the Caps. Not ideal to be outshot 14-5, but Holtby is playing top-notch goaltending. The Caps need to remain disciplined and keep the pen shots to the outside. Also, the Caps need to get more offensive zone time and wear down the Penguins' defense. Then going into the second period, Evgeny Kuznetsov would be called for holding at 1:20. Then at 7:08, Carl Hagelin would score his second of the playoffs, assisted by Nick Bonino and Ian Cole. Then the Capitals bench, served by Marcus Johansson, would be called for too many men on the ice at 11:05. Then Taylor Chorney would be called for roughing at 15:02. And then Evgeny Kuznetsov would be called for goalie interference at 17:58. At the end of the second period, Pittsburgh would be up 1-0. Shots were 28-10 in favor of the Penguins. Faceoffs were 25-20 in favor of the Caps. Hits were 23-8-14 in favor of the Capitals. Power play was 0-5 for Pittsburgh and 0-1 for the Caps. This was an all Penguins period. They contained the Caps to only 5 shots for the second straight period and were able to control the tempo the entire period. The Caps need to light a fire under their offense, plus they need to stay out of the penalty box. Also note, the Nate Schmidt goal should have counted. You can clearly see that Matt Murray's goalie stick in the feet of Evgeny Kuznetsov, which caused him to fall on Murray. Horrible call by the refs on this play, but also at the same time, if you're going to wave off the goal, you can't call the penalty on Kuznetsov at the same time. It's always been like that. If one gets called off, then the other thing doesn't happen either. So this was just horrible call by the refs on this play. And my friend Tori, who is a Penguins fan, even admits that it should have been a goal. And Tori, if you try to deny it, I still have the text message on my phone where he even admitted that to me. So don't try me. And then going into the third period, Chris Letang would be called for tripping at 2:56, which on that power play at 4:08, Marcus Johansson would score his second of the playoffs from John Carlson and Evgeny Kuznetsov, their fifth and first assists of the playoffs, respectively. Then Matt Niskanen would be called for hooking at 8:18, and Nick Bonino would be called for roughing at 8:18. And then at 15:32, Eric Fehr would score his second of the playoffs from Evgeny Malkin and Chris Kunitz to win the game 2-1 for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Shots for the Pens were 35-24 in favor of the Pens. Faceoffs were 44-26 in favor of the Caps. Hits were 31-21 in favor of the Caps. And on the power play, Pittsburgh was 0 for 5 to the Caps, 1 for 2. This honestly was an embarrassing game for the Washington Capitals. They did not play their game in the first two periods. They only had 10 shots combined, 5 in each period. That's not good enough. You got to get better quality chances. Obviously, having the Nate Schmidt goal waved off was not good and potentially killed any momentum that the Caps are truly building at that point in the second period. So going into Game 3 tonight, they need to go back to how they played in Game 1, which was a much more focused game. But I will say this. With Orlov out of the lineup and Chorny in, I did feel that the defense was more stable in the Capitals' own zone. But of course, we'll go into a little bit of news a little later, I believe after the Blues game that Dickson's about to do, when we'll talk a little bit more about that also after the next break. So for April 30th, NHL News and Notes, start off with some NWHL news, with Sam Faber has signed a contract with the Connecticut Whale for the 2016-17 season. General Manager Lisa Giovanelli announced on Saturday Faber and the Whale agreed to terms on a 1-year, $13,000 contract. Faber played in 13 games with the Whale last season, scoring 6 points, 3 goals, and 3 assists. She added 2 points, a goal, and an assist in the team's 3 playoff games. Los Angeles Kings center Anze Kopitar might need to find some extra room in his trophy case. Kopitar was named a finalist for the Lady Byng Memorial Trophy, awarded to the player adjudged to have exhibited the best type of sportsmanship and gentlemanly conduct combined with a high standard of playing ability. The other finalists are Alexander Barkov of the Florida Panthers and Louis Eriksson of the Boston Bruins. Kopitar is also a finalist for the Selke Trophy, awarded to the league's top defensive forward. In 81 games this season, Kopitar led the Kings with 74 points and was second in the league with a plus 34 rating. Teammate Tyler Toffoli was a plus 35. He had 16 penalty minutes, averaging 20:52 of ice time per game. Kopitar finished third in Lady Byng voting last season. The last Kings player to win the Lady Byng was Wayne Gretzky in 1994. Barkov had NHL career best. Alexander Barkov of the Florida Panthers had NHL career best this season in goals, 28, assists, 31, and points, 59, and had 8 penalty minutes in 66 games. He is the first Panthers player to be a Lady Byng finalist since defenseman Brian Campbell won the award in 2012. And then Louis Eriksson of the Boston Bruins is a Lady Byng finalist for the second time. He was third in voting in 2011. This season he had 30 goals and 63 points and 12 penalty minutes in 82 games. The last Bruins player to win the Lady Byng was Rick Middleton in 1982. And then Jonathan Drouin scored his first Stanley Cup playoff goal to help the Tampa Bay Lightning defeat the New York Islanders 4-1 in Game 2 of the Eastern Conference second round at Amalie Arena. The best-of-7 series is tied 1 apiece with Game 3 at Barclays Center on Tuesday. Tyler Johnson scored twice, and Victor Hedman had a goal for the Lightning. Ben Bishop made 19 saves. And then Toronto Maple Leafs president Brendan Shanahan said now is the time to start putting the frame on the foundation Coach Mike Babcock helped build this season. The first major step in doing that occurred this past Saturday when the Maple Leafs won the number 1 pick in the 2016 NHL Draft Lottery. The Winnipegs were awarded the number 2 pick, and the Columbus Blue Jackets won the number 3 selection. The Maple Leafs had a 20% chance, the best odds to win the number 1 pick in the 2016 draft, which will be held June 24th and 25th at First Niagara Center in Buffalo, New York. And with that, we're going to go to Game 2 between the St. Louis Blues and the Dallas Stars, which took place yesterday. Dickson, take it away, bud.
Okay, you have Game 2, the Dallas Stars versus St. Louis Blues. Your St. Louis Blues lineups are Jaden Schwartz, Yuri Laterra, Vladimir Tarasenko, Alexander Steen, Paul Stastny, Troy Brouwer, Robbie Fabry, Patrick Berglund, David Backes, Scotty Upshaw, Kyle Brodziak, Ryan Reeves. Defensive pairings are Jay Bouwmeester, Alex Pietrangelo, Joel Edmondson, Kevin Shattenkirk, Carl Gunnarsson, Colton Perico, and Brian Elliott in net. You have your first Dallas goal at the 3:36 mark of the first period, scored by Alex Golgoski, assisted by Jamie Benn and Cody Eakin. St. Louis goal at the 4:11 mark from Patrick Berglund, assisted by Robbie Fabry and David Backes. St. Louis goal at the 7:02 mark, Joel Edmondson, his first of the playoffs, assisted by Troy Brouwer and Scotty Upshaw. St. Louis penalty at 14:52, Yuri Laterra for hooking. Dallas penalty at 17:41, Antoine Roussel for tripping, and a St. Louis power play goal at the 18:40 mark. Troy Brouwer scored his second of the playoffs, assisted by Kevin Shattenkirk and Robbie Fabry. Your shots go Dallas 10, St. Louis 5. Faceoffs go in favor of Dallas 12-6. Hits go in favor of St. Louis 16-7. St. Louis is 1 for 1 on the power play, and Dallas is 0 for 1. Second period, you have a Dallas penalty at the 5:31 mark. Valerie Ushikin, I think that's correct, for hooking.
I think it's like Nichushkin or something like that. Nichushkin
For hooking. St. Louis penalty at the 9:46 mark. Troy Brouwer for cross-checking, and a St. Louis penalty at 13:07. Jaden Schwartz for cross-checking. Second period stats go 16-15 in shots in favor of Dallas. Faceoffs go 20-16 in favor of St. Louis. Hits go 31-13, also in favor of St. Louis. St. Louis is 1 for 2 on the power play, and Dallas is 0 for 3. Yeah, and for the third period, you have a Dallas goal at the 4:35 mark. Matthias Janmark scored his first goal of the playoffs, assisted by Cody Eakin and Colton Savor with his first assist of the playoffs. St. Louis penalty at the 4:37 mark, Patrick Berglund for tripping. A Dallas penalty at the 5:46 mark, Antoine Roussel for high sticking. And a Dallas goal at 17:24, Jamie Benn scores his fifth goal of the playoffs, assisted by Cody Eakin and Chris Russell. The end of the third, you have stats go 29-17 shots in favor of Dallas. Faceoffs go 32-27 in favor of St. Louis. Hits go 36-20 in favor of St. Louis. St. Louis is 1 for 3 thus far in the power play, and Dallas is 0 for 4. First overtime, you have a Dallas penalty at 1:13 for Dallas from John Klingberg for holding. A Dallas penalty at the 10:41 mark, Antoine Roussel for interference, and St. Louis scores a power play goal at the 10:58 mark. David Backes with his third goal of the playoffs, assisted by Alexander Steen and Kevin Shattenkirk. Your end of the game stats, Dallas has 34 shots against St. Louis is 25. Faceoffs go 38-35 in favor of St. Louis. Hits go 42-23 in favor of St. Louis, and St. Louis goes 2 for 5 on the power play versus Dallas is going 0 for 4 on the power play at the end of the game. Your news and notes for May 1st. Forward Jaromir Jagr of the Florida Panthers, forward Matt Zuccarello of the New York Rangers, and Pascal Dupuis, who played for the Pittsburgh Penguins earlier the season before retiring, were nominated for the Bill Masterson Memorial Trophy, awarded annually to the player who best exemplifies the qualities of perseverance, sportsmanship, and dedication to hockey. Yager, 44, had 27 goals and 39 assists in 79 games to help the Panthers win the Atlantic Division for the first time and a division title for the second time in franchise history. He was first on the Panthers in points, second in goals, and second with a plus 23 rating. Yager became the oldest player in NHL history to surpass the 60-point plateau in a season. He was lauded for his work ethic and off-ice mentorship, particularly with linesmen Alexander Barkov and Jonathan Boudreau. Zuccarello suffered a fractured skull and a brain contusion during the 2015 Stanley Cup Playoffs and lost the ability to speak for 4 days. He rehabbed during the offseason and played a career-high 81 games this season. He led the Rangers in points 61 and was second in goals 26, each career highs. Dupuis was diagnosed with a blood clot in his lung in November 2014 and did not play for the remainder of the 2014-15 season. He returned to start the 2015-16 season and had 2 goals and 2 assists in 18 games before retiring December 8th because of health concerns. He left 2 games after falling ill because of the blood clot. Dupuis remains with the Penguins on a daily basis, attending games and providing feedback to the coaching staff and players. Washington Capitals defenseman Brooks Orpik has been suspended for 3 games for interference against the Pittsburgh Penguins defenseman Olli Määttä during Game 2 of the team's second-round series in Washington on Saturday, April 30th, the National Hockey League's Department of Player Safety announced today. The incident occurred at 4:13 of the first period. Orpik was assessed a minor penalty for interference. The San Jose Sharks weren't at their best, but they were good enough to withstand a desperate effort by the Nashville Predators for a 3-2 victory Sunday at SAP Center in Game 2 of their Western Conference second-round series. San Jose leads the best-of-7 series 2-0. Game 3 is Tuesday at Nashville. Joe Pavelski scored a tie-breaking goal with 2:40 left in the third period. Logan Couture scored a power play goal in the second period, and Martin Jones played 37 saves for the Sharks. Joe Thornton had an empty net goal with 55.6 seconds remaining. You have NWHL news. Haley Bracken and Jamie Leonoff have signed contracts with the New York Riveters for the 2016-17 season. General Manager Chad Wiseman announced Sunday. Bracken and the Riveters agreed to terms on a 1-year, $19,500 contract, and Leonoff and the Riveters agreed to terms on a 1-year, $10,000 contract. Bracken played in 18 regular season games for the Whale last season, scoring 17 points, 5 goals, and 12 assists, and leading all big defensemen in scoring. She added another assist in the Whale's 3 playoff games. Leonoff played in 10 games for the Whale, posting a .936 save percentage at a 2.96 goals against average and a 7-3-0 record. Amanda Kessel has signed a contract with the New York Riveters for the 2016-17 season. General Manager Chad Wiseman announced Sunday. Kessel and the Riveters agreed to terms on a 1-year, $26,000 contract. Kessel, who played at University of Minnesota, scored 248 points, 108 goals, and 140 assists in 127 NCAA games, and was the recipient of the Patty Kazmir Award. With USA Hockey, she earned a silver medal at the 2012 IIHF World Championship and gold in 2013. Kessel led the team with 6 points, 3 goals, 3 assists in the 2014 Olympics, where they won silver. The forward recently won the NCAA championship with Minnesota, where she scored the game-winning goal.
And with that, we're going to go to break. I need to grumble about something to Dickson that was just announced by the league, and we'll actually talk about that when we come back from break, as we're actually going to we've done everything that we needed to do, so we're just going to do a little discussion on some topics that we feel that we would like to discuss about. So with that, we'll be back from the break. Ever interested in meeting your favorite athletes or celebrities, or looking for that right memorabilia for your collection? Then come to the CSA shows in Chantilly, Virginia. For more information, go to csashows.com. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Xperience Hockey Talk, serious hockey talk for serious hockey fans. And Mike and Dickson here, and we're also brought to you by Maryland Championship Wrestling, which on May 13th at the MCW Arena in Joppa, Maryland. Global Force Wrestling, led by Jeff Jarrett, takes on Maryland Championship Wrestling for Collision Course. For more information and the purchase tickets, visit marylandwrestling.com. And with that, I find it great that I use Maryland Championship Wrestling as the sponsor to come into this segment, because we're going to talk about, this is our discussion segment on what Dickson and I were talking about over the break. Was the NHL just announced the Game 5 schedule for times for Saturday, and it made me very, very grumpy, because, in a perfect world, Game 5 of the Cavs Penguins would be at noon, followed by a 3 p.m. start time of St. Louis Dallas, followed by an 8 p.m. start time for San Jose Nashville if necessary, because San Jose is up 2-0 on that series. No. Dallas St. Louis will start at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. The Capitals Penguins game will start at 7:15 Eastern Time. And Game 5, if necessary, for the Sharks and Predators will start at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And then, of course, they also announced Game 5 start time for the Islanders Lightning, which would be 3 p.m. on Sunday. And, you know what? I'm going to hop onto the NHL app real quick to take a look at this. Come on. Load up. Scores. Friday, Saturday. And of course, the 1 p.m. game between St. Louis and Dallas will be the NBC game. At 7:15, the Caps Penguins game will also be on NBC. And then at 10 p.m., the Sharks and Predators will be on NBC Sports Network. And the Islanders Lightning game on the Sunday at 3 p.m. will also be on NBC. It's like, technically, I don't know why they couldn't have done the Caps game first, because that would have made a lot more sense to me and all the people on the East Coast, but it's on NBC, which means it's probably the primetime game. Dickson, before I go on a massive rant here, any thoughts?
It just doesn't make any sense to me. It makes sense if they want to have it be a primetime game, because this definitely is the series to watch for the second round. Other than that, like with what you said, it makes so much more sense to have it be an afternoon game with a noon puck drop. But I can kind of see why, at the same time, why they made it a Saturday night.
I was hoping if it started at noon and it goes to like 5 overtimes, I could still do something later on in the day. That would have been cool, but no. Let's keep us up all night. Yeah, no. Don't go to overtime on Game 5. Do it on Game 6, because I got to go to a concert, and then if I can get home in time and you guys are still in overtime, I can watch the rest of the game at least. And speaking of Game 6, we're going to use that as a segue to talk about Brooks Orpik and his 3-game suspension for interference on Olli Mata. Dickson, what's your thoughts on the suspension?
Yes, there was head contact, but he made it. But I think, yes, he had his meeting yesterday, and yes, he admitted that he was at fault. And yes, while it's not under the repeat offender, although he did have two suspensions prior, I think it was in 2003 and 2006. They were both 2-game suspensions, I believe, for similar incidents. But at the same time, the incidents were so far apart from the last one to now that I don't think a 3-game suspension was warranted. I would have been fine if he just sat out for 1 game.
I mean, and to be brutally honest here, he admitted that he made a bad mistake or a bad decision to do the hit. He admitted that he was late on the hit. If you watch the video, which I did, and luckily for us, we only have to watch the video 1 time because they show you the replay of the hit multiple times. So you can't deny anything. They show you all the angles. Yeah, I mean, and I'm going to agree with what Brooks Orpik said. It was a fair suspension. Yeah, and it's true. Those are the hits we want out of the game. Orpik did one of those hits, and as a result, he's out for 3 games. I think this series, and Dickson, you've admitted it too, that we both believe that this series will go 7. It's just a matter of how are the Caps going to respond. We now know that Dmitry Orlov is going to be taking Orpik's spot in the lineup. And Orlov sat out the last game as kind of a sit down of going, you've been screwing up. It's time to sit it from the press box. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting these next 3 games to see how the Caps respond to the Orpik suspension. But not only that, but overall respond after being embarrassed the other night in Game 2. And then, speaking of being embarrassed, Bruce Boudreau was fired by the Anaheim Ducks this past weekend, which a lot of us saw coming anyways. Boudreau, once again, was not able to win a Game 7, and the Ducks were eliminated from the playoffs again. So, Dickson, I'll let you start off with your thoughts on this.
Yes, we all saw it coming. I could kind of see it coming when they had that very slow start at the beginning of the season. And with Boudreau is a very good regular season coach. When it comes to the playoffs, he just can't get it done. It's not a shocker that he was fired when it went to 7 games. I said if he doesn't win this series, he's going to get fired. And lo and behold, they lose Game 7, and then he's fired a couple of days later. It just the writing is on the wall. With that, when you're a coach and when you go to the playoffs, you're expected to try and go as far as possible. But whatever his coaching style is, whatever he's doing, was not resonating with the players, and thus he lost his job.
And I can say this firsthand because I've met Boudreau. You know, he's a really nice guy. And that's what everyone says about him. He's a really nice guy, and he's easily approachable and stuff like that. And at times, you can't be that way, especially in the playoffs. Can't be Mr. Nice. Oh, it's okay. Pat on the back. No. You know, there's a reason you got fired by the Caps because you couldn't get past the second round. Yes, you got to the conference finals last year with Anaheim. But when it comes to Game 7, Boudreau has proven with the Caps and with the Ducks now that when the games actually matter, when it comes down to clinching the series, he is not able to coach on the fly. He's not able to make those adjustments that you have to make on the fly as the game is going on, especially a deciding game like a Game 7. I mean, if you remember Game 7 last year for the Ducks against the Blackhawks in the Western Conference Finals, the Ducks got embarrassed. They got blown out. Just like how the Caps got blown out by Pittsburgh in the 2009 Game 7 second round series. Boudreau didn't coach that game well either. So, I mean, it's unfortunate. I like Bruce as a person. He's a great guy. But when it comes to being a playoff coach, he's not that. I think he'll get hired by a team that's in the rebuilding phase. Arizona kind of comes to mind because you don't know what may happen with Dave Tippett there, especially after Don Maloney got relieved of his general manager duties. I mean, you're pretty sure that some other teams out there might be looking for a coach to help build up that franchise for a while, but Boudreau won't be that coach to lead him to the promised land in the playoffs. He'll be that coach who gets the team maybe into the playoffs to get that playoff experience, but will not be. But then he'll get fired to bring in another coach to lead them to that, hopeful promised land. So, sorry, I'm just calling it how I see it. So, anyone wants to complain, just complain to me on Twitter, which is at Xperience Hockey, or on Facebook at facebook.com/Xperience Hockey Talk. Segue. And with that, Dickson, I've already given out the Xperience Hockey Talks Twitter and Facebook. What's yours?
Oh, you can reach me on Twitter at Kendrick_67, and I'm going to learn my lesson from last time and not give out my personal Facebook.
Good boy. And with that, we want to thank our sponsors, Awesome Con, Maryland Championship Wrestling, Donald Gankenheimer with Just Hockey Cards, and of course CSA shows, and of course our main sponsor, the Till Kilt Pub and Eatery, located at 5605 Spectrum Drive in Frederick, Maryland. Come to the Celtic themed sports pub featuring the world famous Till the Kilt girls. For more on Till the Kilt Frederick, visit them on Facebook today. And yes, we are working on it still. We are still in communication on trying to get the show back into the Till Kilt in Frederick, and maybe even doing a special episode while we watch a Caps game. But we'll have more on that when we get it. I just can say that we are talking about it and we are trying to make it work out. And with that, I'm Michael Lindenbaum. He's Dickson Kendrick. Haley's at school doing school things and going to work, doing work things like we also do during the day. And until next time, we will see you on the ice.